Hello, Assalamu alaikum. I just want to say thank you, first of all, to ING and to all of you for answering these questions honestly and going beyond the kumbaya part of interfaith work. Most of our traditional religions have been primarily interpreted from a patriarchal standpoint. So I wanted you to give me your thoughts on that. I mean, because you young men had said that we shouldn't change religion to benefit ourselves, which is true. I mean, but I know that even most learned scholars in Islam usually end with, and Allah knows best. So I wanted you to address that aspect of all of our religions.
I was approaching that like from a more, so the Allah knows best, that's definitely the key part. But I think what, the thing that I see most from college campuses is that people, they kind of want to make religion compatible with their lives in the sense that, they know that the way they were brought up was not the most, it was very, traditional. And then when they come to college, they have so many more opportunities to do things that may not be religious as they remember. And so what they do is like, okay, I'll just, it's okay, I can, let go. But I feel like, it's not, everybody's talking about reinventing religion to be more applicable to us, restructuring religion, but I think it has to start with us, reinventing ourselves, restructuring ourselves to reevaluate how religion should play a role in our lives. And, sometimes it does require sacrifice, but discipline often leads to a lot more, straightforward life. Yeah.
Anybody else want to touch on that? Tim? Simone?
Sure. I just wanted to say, this is going to be the last question, and then we're going to move to the entertainment session after this. So, but everybody keep going, answer the question to your capacities.
I think that young Americans have a tendency to create, as Osama said, a religion to match their life, but I think that there's also an impetus to really, really tailor the best parts of their faith to themselves, right? And to discard the parts that don't make sense. In some cases, that can produce a very shallow interaction with that religion, which I would say is not the best idea, but it is at least something, and very often can lead to a fuller understanding of it later on. Like, you want to learn more about why it is that you're doing that one thing that you're doing. Because if you allow your faith to inform, just one aspect of, say, your activism, then that's a step, and especially for young people who might be loath to pick up their religion and run with it, I think it can be empowering to know that they can somewhat make sense of their faith on their own, although it should always be accompanied, I think, by talking to other people, especially people of other religious traditions, to figure out exactly what it is that makes them tick in here and up here.
Simone?
I'll just say briefly that I had the pleasure of taking a wonderful class last year called Rereading Judaism in Light of Feminism. And it was such a pleasure for me to take because I left this class feeling like my religious experience was enhanced and that my feminist experience was enhanced, that I actually got deeper and closer to both of those parts of my identity, and they got to hold hands. And so I think that sort of engagement should be encouraged, because how crucial that we continue to be aware of the world around us and how it's changing, and allow our religious traditions to evolve as they should in our changing cultures. So for me, it was an extraordinarily positive rereading in light of feminism, and I hope others get that experience too.
Imam, I see you ready to add to the conversation.
Thank you. What's important to realize is that when you're talking about, especially fiqh, if we're talking now as Muslim community or body of Islamic law, fiqh is a story that's written over history. And what I mean by that is that there are 8 fundamental factors that affect a fatwa over time. And fiqh is something that changes. I think in America, we've really, as a community, we need to start to address the idea of what Dalia talked about. We need to work on building the in. And then from the in comes the out. We've actually asked people to migrate from Medina to Mecca. If you think about how we teach people in our community, we start them in Medina and hope they end up at Mecca. Medina is this outward connection to the law. Mecca is this inward dedication and love of God. Where the Prophet ﷺ, it was inverted. The migration started where? We went from Mecca to Medina. Now, that's important because there are aspects of patriarchy in the tradition. No one should deny it. Maybe at that time they did not understand it to be patriarchal, but definitely it came out that way. I'll give you a great example is the definition of marriage. If you take any of the classical 4 books of Islamic law, no woman in this room, I don't care how traditional you tell me you are, will allow yourself to be married according to that definition. There's no way, right? You have Atiya Sakhar, who was a great mufti in Egypt, 10, 15 years ago, as well as what's called Majma' al-Bahuth Islami and Dara Ifta, where I used to work, who actually took the classical definition of marriage and changed it, rewrote it in a way that agrees more with the Quran and Sunnah, because interpretation for the sake of interpretation is a problem. Right? There needs to be really a need for interpretation. And rewrote a definition that recognizes that it's al-aqd mushtaraka. It's a shared contract between a male and a female, changing that definition. We need jurists now in this country. You have Sheikh Abdullah Hamid Ali here in Zaytuna, who's a proficient jurist in your community, that need to go back and look at some of these classical definitions and write books of fiqh for our country that do 2 things. Number 1, eradicate these kind of positions which are founded on the ideas of people, right? Secondly, we should adopt fiqh opinions that are closer to the larger American society we live in. Where we need to be strict on is theology. We're not strict on our theology. We're kind of loosey-goosey on theology. And secondly, we need to be strict on our character development. And I agree with Dalia. If you were to talk to a young person every week about identity, no wonder they think they have an identity problem. Every week it's your identity. You have this book called The Ideal Muslim, The Ideal Muslima. The Prophet did not ask us to be ideal. He asked us to make effort. That's why he said, وَمَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِهِ فَأْتُوا مِنْهُ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. What I ordered you to do as much of it as you can. So I agree with you, right, that there are aspects of the tradition that we need to write for our times now, especially those that would demean women. Secondly, we should adopt fatawi, fiqh opinions that the older generation wanted to preserve Pakistan and India and Bangladesh in America, and it didn't really work for the new generations. What we need to do is preserve spirituality in America for America as Muslims, and religiosity for America. And then thirdly, we need to make sure that our creedal foundation, our hearts are tied to our Lord. So we go from Mecca to, not Medina to Mecca. And the Medina to Mecca model is a great example. Just ask any convert the first experience, or a woman who walked into a mosque without a hijab, or a woman or a man who walked into the mosque maybe dressed in a way that we're not used to. And immediately they ran into Medina. Whereas what people who came into the Prophet's mosque would run into was Mecca. They built people. And that's why Aisha said, praise be to God that the first thing God revealed was the love of God and improving our character, not stop fornication and stop drinking. And she said, if the first thing was stop fornication and stop drinking, we could not have done it. That's the best generation of people. So we ask Allah, yuwaffiqana wa yakum inshallah.
Please join me in thanking our entire panel here tonight. What lovely people, what great ideas.